I would really split my Barstool career up in like 2 chapters right now. There's the first one where, like I said, after I got, brought in the door from Big Cat, it was a different time. Like it was a city-based thing, and you had your guys in New York, and we were with Big Cat here in Chicago, and there was no backing, there was no churning, and there was no money,
Mm-hmm.
and but all I wanted to do was work for Barstool. All I wanted to do was kind of work my way in, and I would always have conversation with you, and obviously you were a tremendous help with Dan, and there just wasn't money, man.
No.
There wasn't.
I mean, it was a couple $100 a month if you were lucky.
Yeah, and I was not lucky.
You weren't even one of those,
No,
right?
I wasn't even one of those.
What were you doing like for money at the time?
So at the time, so 2013, I went back to grad school, did the Stern thing and everything. Then I came out in 2015, and so this is what is a story I've never told before. That's kind of interesting. So I had just come out in 2015, and it was fall 2015, and Big Cat had hit me up. And he's like, hey, man, he was doing this podcast at the time with this guy, Sam, for WGN. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, man, Dave shot that down. He's like, I have to stop doing that because it's for them. He's like, but I'm starting my new show. And he's like, I want you to be the producer with an Andy Richter type role, like from Conan, or like a Danette, like Dan Patrick type thing, where I have a co-host, whether it be, Cutler or Kyle Long, like he'll have a rotating co-host, but I'm the guy behind the glass, like Amy over here. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I want you to be that guy. And in my mind, I'm like, wow, this is it. This is this is all I ever wanted, And this is perfect. Like I'm lined perfectly. Like I'm coming home. I'll be home finally, back in Chicago for that time. And then like a couple weeks went by, and he's like, hey, once again, Dave shot it down, so it's not gonna happen. And
shot down the whole show?
Yes. So little did I know at the time. So he shot it down, but he's like, hey, once the new podcast comes up, like once I'm able to do the show, I'll let you know, Mm-hmm. What happened at the time was 2015 fall. That was the churning shit was going on. Mm-hmm. So kind of it got put on a freeze. That's the way I understand it too. It might be different in from Dan's vantage point and everything. But, everything got put on a freeze, And so, Dan obviously was great, helped me out tremendously, helped me get my first job out of college. And I worked at a sports media company that was, it was brutal, man. Like it was not Barstool. I was working from 4 p.m. to 1 a.m. And Tuesday.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Wednesday, Thursday.
Where was that?
It was called 120 Sports.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Wednesday, Thursday off, and it was just tough, man. It was tough times, and it was just now, when you know where you want to be, and you're so close, but you're somewhere else. That's like, it's brutal, man. Mm-hmm. It was brutal. It was a very tough stretch in my life.
Getting paid anything?
No,
trash,
peanuts, right? Man.
Right.
Paid $14 an hour, something like that.
Right.
Like peanuts, bro. And what's crazy is then the churning deal happens, and Dan's next podcast turned out to be part of my take.
Sure.
So
you're like,
in my eyes, I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
Like that was my spot.
That was supposed to be my thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like, Kevin, man, it was a very hard thing for me to swallow.
I bet, dude.
It was like, holy shit. And credit to those guys. They fucking are superstars. Right. They built it to the moon.
Sort of the same thing for me, where it was like he was still kind of doing some KFC radio episodes, but once it blew up, it was like, oh well, he's never seen him again. He's got to go do this thing and ride this to Jupiter. So yeah, when you have you can't plan too much in this industry because
no, you can't exactly. So that's why I was like, man, and like. It really fucked me up for a while, man.
Really?
Like, I was just like, man, I just because I'm very, like you and like a lot of people here, pretty career-driven guy, and like I don't, not really, in a relationship and whatnot, and it was just like, man, I gotta take a step back, and I've always been in the Barstool, I've like kind of know the history of it. And everything.
Yeah, it's again why you're perfect for the Dave Show, because it's like the ins and outs and the characters and everything about it.
Yeah.
Which I always appreciated. Like the people who come in and are just like, oh, this is how you get a bunch of followers and how you become popular, versus the people who are like, can tell you what getting J-Macked means,
Yes,
like,
exactly.
He's a real one.
For sure. And that's what, that was the first time in my life I was like, man, I have to, I have to kind of take a step back, deleted the app. And it was just like, it was one of those things that, like, Kevin, it haunted me.
Was it like fuck Barstool, or was it just like I can't torture myself by thinking about this?
It was more
like, was there bad, not bad blood, but like was there hard feelings?
To an extent, but it was mostly misguided because, like, you know how it is, bro. Once you're on the other side, every person thinks like, oh, KFC, he's like the fourth guy at the company, third guy, he could get anyone a job. That's not how it works.
No.
It's not how it
really
works.
isn't.
And like, so at an extent,
there's one dude who can do that.
Yeah,
you know
and
what I
it's
mean?
Dave. It's not exactly. And it was misguided anger. Like I shouldn't have been mad, but like like Dan hooked me up with his job. It was just the weird timing. Dan, like Hank was already in. Like why wouldn't he be the producer? Like it just made more sense.
And it's just, you can't have two guys, two salaries on the same spot. Exactly. Doesn't make sense, But
then in your brain, like for me, and then once it got bigger. Like there's pizza guys getting jobs. There's guys running on the street who are fast because they got a job. And obviously I love both. I love Glennie and Frankie. Yeah. But like, in my mind, I'm like, dude, I've been working for free for this company for 3-4 years. When's my shot, man?
Absolutely.